All right, so I'm going to show you guys a before and after of the lighting situation inside the garage. I kind of put everything back to how it was when we first moved in, so I could give you guys a good sense of the upgrades. So you can see it's completely black inside the garage, minus the one window right there that's letting light in. And by the way, I do have to cover that up. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the main switch for the garage that supplies all of the power for lighting. And that's it right there, two light sources. And you may be thinking, oh, well, that looks pretty good. No, guys, it does not look pretty good. This is very inadequate, and the light inside of here is very, very dim. I can't work, or I don't think anyone should be working in a type of situation like this. Any light that you do see inside of here is really just a camera working really well in low light conditions. It's just the camera, guys. Don't let it mislead you. The amount of light that's coming out from these two bulbs right here is completely useless. So what's the first thing I did to try to fix this situation? Well, I went out to my local Menards and I picked up these LEDs. You can see it has 4 different panels on it, and it screws into a standard light bulb socket. And all you would have to do is unscrew those and screw this in. So this is the first upgrade that I did. So let's get rid of these light bulbs one at a time, and I could show you how the lighting in this garage has improved step by step. By the way, yes, I do have the lights off. If anyone's wondering what this box is, it has nothing to do with the garage. This is actually just a TV stand. They got dropped off today, like for our main TV in the living room. Yeah, so gotta deal with that also. Okay, so I'm done installing the one LED panel on the left side of the garage. Let's go ahead and hit the light switch. And there we have it. Can you guys already tell a difference? Because there is a massive difference inside this garage just by installing that one LED panel right there. Let's have a look around here. I don't know if you guys could tell, but this side looks very illuminated, right? There's like a nice beam, a nice hot spot, if you will. And as you get over here, it's very dull. Again, don't let the camera mislead you. This is very dull and dim. On this side, nice hot spot right there. So let's go ahead and put the other LED panel in this light socket. Okay, so both of the LED panels are installed. Let's go ahead and hit the light switch. There you have it. Okay, and this, I would have to say, was the biggest upgrade. Getting rid of those little tiny light bulbs, like a standard light bulb, and upgrading to these 4-panel LEDs made a massive difference right here. But if you guys are seeing what I'm seeing, is basically we have our hotspot right here in the center, right? And we have now another hotspot like right here. But it's noticeably dimmer right here in front. And the same thing alongside the garage, and especially right here in front of the main 2 toolboxes. Okay, so great, we have a massive improvement. What's the next step? Well, at the old garage, I had these LED panels that I figured, you know what, they are completely useless at that old garage. So it's what I did. I went to the old garage, removed all of the LED panels from over there. And now that I had all of the LED panels over here, I couldn't just install them because there's work that has to get done. Basically, I got to install receptacles because these LED panels, they don't get hardwired into the existing electrical system of the garage. They just get plugged into a receptacle. And this garage doesn't have any receptacles on the ceiling to start plugging anything into. So I had to install my own. So the first thing I did is I ran a line. I don't know if you guys can see that bright white line going up. That's a new line that I did. And guys, I try to follow code as much as possible. Don't take my word for anything. I am no electrician. This is my first time doing this, but I did a ton of research and I tried to follow code as much as I possibly could basically mimicking everything that's already going on here. I've even been into my neighbor's garage already, and his garage is set up the same exact way. You can see this line right here, right? This is the existing line. I went ahead and installed that receptacle right there. But I had to run this line over to this light switch because the original line that went to that light switch wasn't long enough. And if I were to just go ahead and cut the line right there to install that receptacle, there wouldn't be enough slack in the line. It would be way too short. So I cut the line right there, and then I had to run a new line from this receptacle all the way down, removing the old line and replacing it with one that's longer. Basically, that's all I did. All I did was replace an existing line just so I could have more slack, because there wasn't going to be enough slack. And I installed a receptacle right there, and that's going to feed the LED lights that go in the front of the garage right here. And since I'm going to have LED lights on the back of the garage, guess what? It needs another receptacle. So I did the same exact thing over here. You can see my brand new line going all the way across. And here's my new receptacle that I installed. And you can see where the LED lights are just gonna plug right into that. And the nice thing about these LED lights is they pretty much all just piggyback off of each other. All you need to do is plug one of them in, and then the next LED light piggybacks off of that one. And then the last one on this side piggybacks off of that one. So I hope all of that makes sense. So at this point, I've already gone ahead and installed my LED lights in the garage. You can see they're all hanging up. I got two back here towards what I would consider the front of the garage. And I have two back here, which would be the entrance or the back of the garage. And the reason I say the back of the garage, and that's because normally I would pull a car in, so a car would come in. So to me, this would be the front area where I would normally be working, and this would be the back of where a car would be sitting. So that's 4 LED panels in total, but I had one left because I had a total of 5 that I removed from another garage. And I thought it made perfect sense to go ahead and put it right above my toolbox. Of course, you could see that one piece of 2x4. It kind of stands out, and that's because that wasn't there. I had to install that myself. I needed something for the light to mount onto, and that gives us one LED bar directly above my 2 toolboxes. Sorry for the rain outside, guys. I don't know how much the camera is picking up the noise, but there's a good amount of noise coming from the outside rain. I do apologize if you can hear it. So let me go ahead and plug in the LED lights. As you can see, I unplugged them. So let me plug all of them back in, and now let's see what the inside of the garage looks like. So now I have everything plugged in. Everything is completed, and let me show you what the final look is. There is a massive difference inside this garage, guys. 100% usable now. This is actually way brighter than my old garage, believe it or not. There's just so much light in here. And keep in mind, there's no drywall on most of the garage, as you can see. So usually if you put drywall up, you know, the drywall is usually white, or people paint it with a primer or whatever. And that white actually reflects the light and makes it look way brighter inside of here. So the fact that this garage really doesn't have any type of drywall to reflect the light, and it's already this bright inside of here, massive improvement. So I don't know if we're ever gonna end up drywalling and insulating this garage. We might end up doing it. I think it's in our best interest. So basically, once this thing gets white drywall all the way around, it's gonna look even brighter inside of here. But I'm really happy with the turnout of this thing, and it's just super nice that everything works off of one switch now. You can see each of the LED panels have like the little pull string to go ahead and turn it on. All you have to do is leave all of them in the turned on position. Since they're all feeding off of the same power source, just leave them all turned on, and now they work off of a single light switch. And here goes the one LED panel that's above the toolbox, and it's actually really nice to have a light source directly above my toolbox. So when I open the drawers, I have plenty of light coming into the drawers, as you can see. Here goes another light source, which I did not install. This one was just here when we moved in. It was unplugged, but I did test it, and it does work if I were to plug it in. all you have to do is pull the little switch right here and it turns on the light source. I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I don't know if I'm going to leave it there and try to use it, because honestly I have plenty of light right here. Of course, there's nothing wrong with extra light, but there's no receptacle anywhere around here to plug this in. In order to plug this in, I would have to run an extension cord or run another line to have a receptacle somewhere over here, which honestly isn't a bad idea. It's a good idea to have another receptacle, so while I'm at the workbench I could just plug something in. So I think that's what I'm gonna end up going with this, but as of right now I'm not gonna run an extension cord just for a single light source that really isn't all that necessary. But yeah, once I get a receptacle right here, I'll definitely plug it in and use it. So yeah, lighting situation is much better than my old garage. So ever since we moved in, the garage door has been giving us some issues, and over time it seems to be getting worse, and it's at a point where it just consistently doesn't want to work. And what I mean by that is the garage door opens perfectly every single time, but when it comes down to close, it would start to come forward, and by the time it gets like to the beginning of this corner right here, it would just stop moving. So the motor is still spinning and trying to do its thing, but the door physically wouldn't move. So I would have to reach up, grab the bottom of the door and give it a little bit of a pull to kind of help it. Well, you know, this thing is a really old unit. I mean, look at this thing. Don't know what year it is, but clearly it looks very old. And the wife was like, you know what, let's just go ahead and buy a new garage door opener, because this is extremely frustrating to have to get out of your car every single time to physically pull down the garage door. So I figured, you know what, let me look at this before we go out and just buy a new garage door opener. Maybe it's something I could fix. So I was actually really surprised to see that it's just a real simple mechanism here. It's just a motor. Here's a large pulley, and we have a belt that does everything. Now, when this thing is acting up, what it sounds like to me before with the cover on, it sounds like the motor is spinning, but something's slipping. And this is exactly what's going on, guys, because look at this. Look at all this slack in the belt right here. And as I squeeze this, you can actually see the motor kind of flex a little bit. So as you can see, you could adjust the tension of the motor with the two nuts that are right here. I'm assuming there's another one on the back side. And I think this is going to be a super simple fix. All I have to do is loosen these nuts, push the motor back just a hair to put more tension on this very loose belt. But before we go ahead and adjust any of this stuff, let me show you what the door is actually doing. As you can see, the garage door opens just fine, no issues at all. And let's try to close it, see if it acts up this time. And there we have it, it's stuck. Let's go over here and see what's going on. Just as I suspected, guys, as you can see, the motor is spinning, but it's slipping on the belt. And then I would have to come over here, give it a little pull down, and there it goes. This is going to be a super simple fix, guys. There's no reason to go out and spend a good chunk of money to replace this unit when we could just put a little bit more tension on the belt, and I guarantee you it's going to fix this problem. So looking at the back side of the motor, this side just has a single nut and bolt on it, as you can see, so it doesn't slide like the other side does. So basically, you're supposed to loosen this side, loosen the other side, and it pivots off of this bolt, and that's how you apply the tension. The problem is this nut right here is so freaking tight that it's starting to round off, guys. And yes, I am using proper tools to get in here, and it just doesn't want to go. I don't know who the hell tightened this thing down, but I'm not going to mess with it. I'm just gonna go ahead, since I got the backside loose, I'm gonna get something to pry. And now we're back on the other side. You can see what I'm talking about. I made 2 marks when the nut was still tight. So this mark right here used to line up with that mark. So you can see the whole thing has shifted forward. That's why we have even more slack now. So what I'm going to do is just get a small pry bar and just be careful what I'm prying off of. And I'm gonna get this whole thing to shift to the front now. All right, so I'm pretty much done here. Got the nuts all torqued down. And if we look at our marks that I put right there, you can see this thing moved back about 3/8 of an inch. As far as how to get it to go back, I tried like the pry bar method, like right here. And I really couldn't get enough leverage to get this motor to come back or anything that I felt comfortable prying against. So instead I used my large pliers right here, and I came on the front of the housing right there, and then the back of it obviously gripped on that metal bracket for the motor, and I just squeezed the pliers and you could see how it would push the motor forward. So that's all I did. Instead of prying and potentially damaging something over here, just use some pliers to pinch this and get the motor to move forward. I hope all that makes sense. Like I said, it's all torqued down, it's tight now, and you can see this is significantly less slack than it was before. You don't want it like rock solid. You don't want to make this thing super tight, because all you're going to do is put extra stress on your motor, and maybe even this bearing if there is one inside of here, and you're just going to wear things out prematurely. So there needs to be a little bit of slack. Let's go ahead and test it out now. Now, you could call me crazy, but to me, it even seems like the garage door is opening and closing slightly faster than it was before. And that actually makes sense because the belt is no longer slipping, which means the motor is more effectively transferring its power. Okay, so that it could pull and push the door faster than it was before. So I'm really happy about this. It was a pretty simple fix, and we did not have to go out and spend hundreds on a garage door opener. Honestly, I don't know what a garage door opener costs. I've never actually gone out and bought one, so maybe I'm a little optimistic with the hundreds. Maybe it's a lot more expensive than that, but yeah, this is a fix. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this little cover back on here, but I'm super happy I was able to fix this, and no parts required and no money. In the old garage, I had this shelving unit in the far right hand corner in the back of the garage, and honestly, it was a waste of space. I used a heavy duty shelving unit like this to hold a bunch of spray cans and chemicals, which really, come on, you know what I'm saying? It was a waste of space. So for this time, I decided to put all my tools, you know, all this stuff, all the heavy boxes right here. So in my old garage, I had like a workbench, and I had all of them slotted underneath the workbench, but I didn't bring that workbench with me because there's no space for it here, and I really just don't need it. So this shelving unit was the perfect place to put all these tools, and I think it works out way better than before. I think this shelving unit is better suited for stuff like this rather than just having a bunch of like brake parts cleaner and just random chemicals on it, really wasting space. In this corner, you can see I put my spring compressor. I don't use it often, so tucking something away in the corner like that, perfectly fine. Let's go over to behind the CRX. Not much behind here. You can just see I got the spare wheels, the factory wheels for the CRX. I have a set of new doors. They're not new, of course, but you get what I'm saying. They're different doors, way better condition than the doors that are on this car. Thank you for the person who gave me these doors. And just some random tools back there, as you can see, just boxes. So let's go around to the other side. I put my welder back here because, again, a welder is something you don't often use. And when I do need it, it's as simple as pulling out my air compressor. Remember, everything's on wheels, so it's not that bad. Pull out the air compressor and then slide out the welder. Not a big deal. The sandblaster is right here. Right next to the sandblaster is my press. Now, I'm not really happy with this, but I really had nowhere else to put it, so it is what it is. All this crap right here is irrelevant because all this stuff is going to get moved. It's just sitting here in the meantime, and that's it. So none of this right here really matters. And this is my other shelving unit that I had in the rear left side of my old garage. And again, I had a bunch of chemicals on it, and I just used it for the same thing. I just tried to organize things a little bit better than I had before. Before, it was just a mess of everything. As far as my two main toolboxes, I decided to put them right here only because it kind of made sense to me. Preferably, I like to have my two main toolboxes towards wherever the front of a car is going to be. And like I said, I primarily pull cars in like this forward. So the perfect place to have my toolboxes would have been like right here. Because I don't want to put anything against this wall. All this crap that's right here on the floor is going to get moved eventually. So this should be open space once I find a home for all this stuff. This cabinet came off of the wall. You can see it matches the ones that are already up here. It was actually right next to these, but because I wanted to put the shelving unit right here, that cabinet had to come off. And instead of leaving it on the ground because it's kind of useless there, I'm just going to relocate it, and I'm thinking of mounting it somewhere up there out of the way, and that way I still have the storage space and it's off of the ground. I hope that makes sense. If you're wondering why didn't I put my two toolboxes over here, how I said I just prefer to have them over here, and that's because of the door. If you do the measuring and you put the two toolboxes side by side, this door would barely open because the toolbox would stick out like right here. So, you know, instead of the door opening fully the way it can right now, it would probably only open like halfway. And me personally, I don't care, but the wife wasn't having it. So, you know, I got to get the green light for everything I do here, guys. And she didn't like that idea. And who am I to go against her, right? So she didn't like it, so I had to move things around. So that's why the shelving unit went right here and my toolboxes went over here, even though I prefer to have them towards where the front of a car would be. It's not a big deal though. I'll get used to it. That cabinet up there was actually lower. It was actually just as low as these are right here. But as you could see, it was in the way of the toolbox. So instead of completely removing it, all I did was shifted it up as far as I could possibly get it. You could see. So I moved it up, bolted it right back down to the garage, and that's its new home. And now the toolbox fits under it without interfering with anything. And of course, I got all my tools in place already. And this was fun, guys. This was a real pain in the butt putting all my tools. You know what really helped though is you can see all these numbers. So when I was emptying out the toolboxes at the old garage, what I did is I put this tape right here, put number 1, and then the box or the bag that whatever was coming out of this drawer had the corresponding number on it. Okay, so if all of the contents of this drawer went into a box, then I would label that box number 1, so that when we transferred everything over here, all I had to do is find the box that said 1, and I know it all went in the drawer that has a sticker 1 on it. And you get what I'm trying to say, right? So the bag that had number 6 on it, I know everything that was in that bag goes in this drawer. So that really sped up the process for putting all my tools back right where I had them, and there's no confusion, because the biggest thing is forgetting where you put a tool. It's so frustrating when you can't find a tool. So let's move on to this wall right here. We'll start right here on the right side. You can see I have this what's it called, engine support bar right above the door. You can see I put these hooks inside of the wood right there to support it. And it's kind of out of my reach, but that's exactly what I was looking for, because this thing, I bought it a few years ago and I've only used it twice. So it's not something I use often. So there's no reason for it to take up good space. It just needs to be in its own little spot and it's out of the way. And this is absolutely perfect. So you see what I was going for there. Over here, the kids' bikes at the old garage, they were always in front of the sandblaster. And I can't tell you how annoying it was to always have to tippy toe around these bikes. Extremely annoying. So as soon as I came up with this idea to just hang the bikes up, I jumped on it as fast as I could. And it's been really nice because the bikes are out of the way. I'm not stumbling over them. They're not, you know, bothering me in any way. And the same exact things for this step ladder right here and my 2 ramps. I took one of the ramps down so I could show you guys what I ended up doing. So you can see how the hook that I put right there in the beam has like that little upward spike, and that's kind of what retains things from falling off. I had to modify them by putting this hole in them, and I know some people aren't going to like that because you could say it takes away from the structural integrity of this thing. You know, it's made out of plastic, and I see your concern, but I'm just going to choose to ignore you. Hey, it's my ramp, okay? I can do what I want with it. If you think this is a bad idea, then simply don't do it to yours. Simple as that. So these holes right here are simply so they could get on that hook and they won't fall off. So no matter how much they get shaken around or moved around, they are not going to fall off of the hooks up there. That's the only reason for the hole that I put. Now you can see this one actually has a crack right here in the plastic. And yeah, this happened a few years ago. It was actually a Honda Civic. Some young kid, you know, the car needs to go up on the ramps, and he said he could do it himself. Now here's the thing, this kid had just gotten his license, like his permit or whatever, right? And when he told me he had just started driving not so long ago, I saw all the red flags and I chose to ignore him like an idiot. So he was like, yeah, I could drive it up on a ramp, so yeah, go for it, you know? Man, this guy practically did a burnout on top of these ramps, and the Civic just kind of went right past the ramps. So the front wheel jumped off, and then the pinch weld on the bottom of the rocker panel actually hit right here when the car fell off of the ramps, and boom, that's what cracked the plastic right here. Initially I was concerned with this, thinking that it might, you know, cause some look at me making it worse that it might cause some like structural integrity problems with it, and that it might fail while I'm using it. But like I said, it's been years with this crack right here, and I haven't had any issues. I'm just really careful with what I put on these things, you know, like a Civic, a Nissan Sentra, Altima, whatever, a Toyota Camry. Yeah, they all go on this thing, okay? But if you bring me a Suburban, I am not going to put a Suburban on this thing. You know what I'm trying to say? Just be aware of what you're doing, okay? And that's how simple it is. All right, so I know this video is getting long. I don't want to take up any more of your time, so I'm just going to go through a few more things I want to show you guys. I got a new vise. Look at this monster. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about this, or really, I'm not going to talk anything about it, because I have a separate video coming out about this vise, a whole video dedicated to that vise. So yeah, there's that. I put my bench grinder right here, frankly, because it's the only place I could think of to put it in this garage. I'm kind of running low on space. I got a ladder back here, and it's a small ladder, so it's not a big issue. I could just pull it out from back there whenever I need it. Now, when we first moved into this house, there was a giant pegboard mounted against this wall right here. Like, the guy had it screwed to the studs, right? And he had all these hooks on it. I believe the hooks are right here. You can see just, you know, a bunch of things for like hanging screwdrivers and just random things. You know what I'm saying? Just a whole hook system for a pegboard. And initially, I'm like, I don't use pegboards, okay? I've never really found them to be my cup of tea. I didn't really care for it. So my first thing was I unscrewed it from the wall, and I put it on the side of the garage outside with the intentions of throwing it out. And after a few days, once I got all the shelving unit inside the garage and I started putting all my chemicals on it, I started to realize how much I've always hated this garage because of like this wire net that it has, or whatever you want to call it, the framing. It's always, it's crappy, okay? It's not good for holding small bottles like this, because they always want to tip over and fall. So that's when I got that bright idea to, hey, why don't I just cut down that giant pegboard and use it for the shelving unit? And it's what I did. You can see right there, right there. Every shelf has the pegboard on it. You can see from down here. And all I did was use zip ties to hold the pegboard in place. I hope all that makes sense. And nothing's tipping over anymore. I absolutely love it. I'm like, man, it's the best idea I had with that pegboard versus throwing it out and it being a complete waste, right? So after I did that whole shelving unit, we still had a good amount of pegboard left over. And then that's when I looked at this wall. It was completely empty, just like that, okay? It was just like, you know, the 2x4s, right? Nothing behind it. And with the workbench right here, I looked at this and I'm like, you know what? I could easily see this, that if I put something down on the table and something starts to roll away, like a socket or a spark plug, whatever, anything that could roll, it would easily fall behind and I would lose it. So I decided to cut a piece of the pegboard. I put it right here. You can see I just mounted with screws and washers, and I'm using the same hook system that the guy used to have, and I'm using it to hold just like random things that were always in like weird places, or kind of weird for me to get to in the old garage. And right here it makes perfect sense. Like, I never really had a home for this giant pry bar. As you can see, this is the biggest pry bar I have. I believe it's a Mayhew. So this thing has never really had a home, and now thanks to the pegboard and the system, it sits right there. So, of course, I'm still finding other things I can mount on the pegboard, but it has become extremely useful, and I'm so glad I didn't throw it out. And then I had one small piece left, and I'm like, man, what can I do with this? So pretty much the same exact thing over here. Of course, I'm not really going to use this for mounting anything, but over here we have the same problem where if something were to roll off of the bench, it would fall behind there and, you know, get lost. So I use this final little piece of pegboard really as a stop back here to stop things from rolling back. Simple as that. And with that final piece, I managed to use the entire pegboard instead of letting it go to waste and just throwing it out. So I'm like super happy how that turned out. It's been very helpful, you know, and it kind of opened up my eyes as far as a pegboard. it's not useless. It has its place. You just have to find what that place is. Of course, there's things that still have to get moved around and things that still have to get put away. Like all these boxes are going to get put away. There's just random stuff that I haven't gotten to yet. So in a little bit more time, you guys are going to see this garage kind of change, and it's going to be more efficient, and all of this is going to be cleaned up. So none of this junk would be piled up right here. We're going to have all this working space, walking space, whatever you want to call it, and everything in front of the CRX should be cleaned up and just a lot more usable space. So that's going to be it for now, guys. I just want to show you guys an update of the garage and how everything's been going and why I'm putting things in certain places and how it's just all working out for me, and I think it's all for the better. I'm really enjoying this space a lot better than the old space I had. So yeah, I just wanted to give you guys an update. I know some people were interested in seeing how all of this is panning out for me. So I hope you guys could hit that thumbs up button. And like always, thanks for watching.